What I had asked the guys before is sort of like, what did the path like to where you are look like? But Michael opened up a really good opportunity to talk about just kind of the direction that the industry is headed, and I think something that is kind of on all of our minds is like, how is distribution changing, or how do you see it changing going forward, especially now with not only the pandemic, but the multiple social justice movements that are going on and things like that? How do you see that changing from your perspective? We can start with, why don't we start with Michael, since he was the one who sort of looped us in over there.
Who hasn't really talked much yet?
We can. I just felt like I put him on the spot with that immediate bio.
I'm fine, sorry. I mean, look, here's the thing. As I said, everything was kind of the same for a long time. It was the model of, you'd go to a studio, they'd go to a network. It would be a studio network venture between a license fee and the studio would keep the international rights, et cetera, et cetera. I think now, because we live in a world where everyone's competing in streaming and their international market has changed, I think that that distribution no longer exists. But what does exist, I think now, which is more important for the creative process, is that everybody needs to find a way to make noise. And a lot of that has to do with, the run for, the competition for IP, whether it's a book or a movie, or whatnot. But the other side of it is that with what's going on in the world, as we know, in kind of the, you talked about the social justice side of it, for instance, right, is the demand for new voices and the demand for underrepresented people to be shown, for people of every group, or everybody that feels marginalized in their group, to see people like them on television. And that has given opportunity to people, television was a very closed business. For a long time, it was, people didn't take chances on new writers. People didn't take chances on new directors. If I could tell you, when I did a show for HBO years ago called Hung, and we had the majority of our episodes for 3 years were directed by women, which was unheard of back then. Right. And I can't take sole credit to that. One of my showrunners was really leading that charge. But today, you can't get a show on television unless the majority of your directors, or at least a parity of directors, are women. A parity of directors are from a smaller grouping of, whether, or an unrepresented grouping. I shouldn't say smaller, but the truth of that is, you get better storytelling because of that. Because the reality is, when the more lenses you're seeing something through, the more authenticity there is. And our audiences are really savvy now, and they're really quick to call bullshit on things. If things don't feel real, people aren't going to put up with it. So I don't know if that at all answered your question, but we'll go from there.
No, I mean, it kind of ties into everything that we're talking about. I'd love to hear from either Jason or Ra, if anybody feels moved to speak, although probably not at the same time.
Ra, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the representation of diversity is incredibly important. And, there's nothing I could say that Michael didn't just say already. We're finding that people are more open to conversations like that. I can't tell. I mean, the last agency I worked at, I remember bringing up a talented South Asian actor, and I said, "What do you think?" And they said, "Oh, we already have one." And it was, that was APA, by the way. Just in case anybody wants to know where not to stack your cards. But it's that sort of thinking that has gone on for the last, however long this industry's been around. We're definitely trying to change that. We're definitely trying to, remove the idea of two people that look similar are the same. but there's a lot more work to be done.
Absolutely.
To wrap it up on this side, the buyers are wanting diversity in all their buyings, and they have shareholders and they have consumers. If you look at who those buyers are, Disney/Fox, that's one entity now, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. The beauty of, and throw in HBO Max and that other one that Universal launched, Peacock, when it comes down to it, the audiences are able to go on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and express their opinions. And these buyers now have inside those corporations people looking at those opinions on a regular basis, and they're reading them and they're finally paying attention to them. And there are wonderful stories out there from all different types of people from all different walks of life that need to be told, should be told, and should have been told for years. You know, I think for all the people on the panel and for everyone involved in this festival, you know, I have children, I'm watching them grow up and they're completely colorblind by, you know, who's telling what story and what's it regarding to. Just, is it interesting? Is it entertaining? And can they relate to it? And that's the basis of how more great stories and more great storytellers from all walks of life will have the opportunity to do that now. So yes, it took a worldwide pandemic to just literally kick this into high gear. So, you know, if there's a positive in these last 6 months, being under the microscope, this is definitely one of those positives.
Definitely. Yeah, it's funny. I think about how people are always saying like every story's already been told, but when you think about, you know, this explosion of people demanding, like really truly demanding diversity, the idea that they that we have a lot of the same stories are told over and over. You know, the themes of like love and hate and all of those things are different, but we haven't seen them through different lenses of perspective. You know, it's always been the same one over and over. And so I think you guys are really hitting the nail. I mean, at least for me as a creator, it's nice to hear you guys say that.